in and of itself is an interesting story because I had no real plans to go to college. Immediately, I knew I wanted to go to college, and I was standing in my high school guidance office in Hackensack, New Jersey, waiting to see my guidance counselor, and this fellow comes up and says, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "Oh, I'm waiting to see my guidance counselor." And he holds out his hand and says, "Hi, my name is Bill Vandenberg, and I'm from Hope College. Let me tell you about Hope College." And I'm like, okay, I got nothing better to do. I'm sitting here waiting for my guidance counselor. So we talked for a while, and he got me real excited about Hope. I applied, was accepted, and showed up that fall. So that's how I ended up here. I saw that question ahead of time, and there were so many. I have to say, it's a collection. I mean, I'm really proud of the education I got here, and it has really, really served me well. On the fun side, probably participating as a morale girl in the poll. I absolutely loved that, and I still talk about it a lot because it's such a unique experience. And even now when I teach small group communication, I will talk about just related to the poll and things that we had to do. My life seems to happen by chance, and I graduated and was wondering what I was going to do. I had no clue, and I just said, well, maybe I'll walk down to the police department. Maybe they need somebody to talk on the radio. So I walked down to the Holland Police Department and found out that they were hiring people to be dispatchers. So again, I applied, got the job, and worked dispatch for a while. And then while I was working as a dispatcher, they ended up getting a grant to try to reduce domestic disputes in town, and then do public relations. And they asked if I wanted to apply for that because they knew of my background in communication. And so I applied for and got that job, and then got sent to police academy, and then came back, and half the time I did work in the schools. Like I taught about drugs and their effects in Holland Middle School, and like Patch the Pony, taking kindergartners through to the police car to show them things like that. And then the other half of my assignment was to do plainclothes with a partner, domestic disputes. So that was my career in Holland. And then basically it led the way for my continued study in communication, because that's how I ended up the first time in Montana, is because I got interested in mediation, because that's what I did. And so I went to study, get my master's in Montana, looking at mediation. I was challenged here always. I mean, nobody let me rest in that way. I mean, the classes that I had here always pushed me, and I always appreciate that. I respond very well to being pushed. And I entered Hope College not thinking I would really amount to much. I was a girl basically in the 70s. Well, what was I going to do? Go home and have babies? And people here showed me I could be something other than that. And I guess that's what pushed me. I got involved in reading research, and I still am in touch with today. My first communication professor, Joe McDaniels, who was here, and he had such an impact on me, that I still keep in touch with him. And he was always sort of behind me, pushing me along. After being a police officer and seeing what I could do in the classroom, it was particularly teaching these drug classes at Holland High. You haven't met your match till you have to go into junior high school in uniform and listening to kids oink at you. And I found out that I really liked teaching, that I could relate to people. And that combined with the sense of mediation, enjoying that, saying, yeah, maybe I want to do more of this. So that's what spurred me on to go to graduate school and get my master's and my PhD because I found out I really did want to teach. And again, it was the intellectual stimulation I received here that showed me that I could do this. My focus has been in two places. I look at, in the beginning of my career, I studied how people use communication to assimilate into organizational life, and then how they become identified with their organization. Now, towards the end of my career, I'm looking at just the opposite. I'm looking at now how people disengage from organizations and how they use communication to help their identity, their organizational identity, change as they make that transition. So it's more or less a double-edged sword in that regard. The honor that I am most proud of is having served our national association, the National Communication Association, as president. And I was president in 2009. And it's just a wonderful honor to have to represent the discipline. Literally, I represented the discipline all over the world. I got to go to Cuba, I got to go to Istanbul, to various conferences and meetings, and just promote what we do in the broad field and the study of communication. And that was just tremendously exciting. The other honor I'm probably most excited about is that I was awarded the Distinguished Teaching Award at the University of Montana. And, that was very confirming since I always wanted to teach. And it was like, oh, maybe I am doing something right. I would say, go with the flow. And I tell that to my own students. Do what interests you. Because if you feel like you have to do something, you're probably not going to stick with it. So find what excites you and go for it. That doesn't mean that you might not have to do some mundane things along the way, but never lose sight of your passion. I basically had no expectations for him. I was just delighted he decided to go here. And what he was, I think, the most blown away by is, just to see a freshman in college come in. My son played a lot of video games. He didn't read a whole lot of books. By the time he left here, he was reading philosophy and political theory and actually liking it. I don't know what they did to get him to read this stuff, but, just to watch the transformation and remembering it in myself was, really rewarding and tremendously exciting. I just have a deep, really love and appreciation for the time and effort and energy that people spent on developing me as a person and a scholar. And, I'll just be eternally grateful for that.